The city was a labyrinth of shadows and sin. Every corner, every alleyway seemed to hold a secret, a story of despair and corruption. The darkness was not just a physical presence but a metaphor for the lives of those who inhabited this forsaken place. The city had a pulse, a heartbeat that echoed through the empty streets, a rhythm of fear and uncertainty. It was a place where hope was a distant memory, and survival was the only goal. The shadows were alive, moving and shifting, hiding the true nature of the city's soul. It was a place where the line between right and wrong was blurred, and morality was a luxury few could afford. Rain-slicked streets mirrored the neon glow of cheap bars, casting an eerie light on the faces of those who wandered the night. The rain was a constant companion, washing away the grime but never the guilt. It was as if the city itself was crying, mourning the loss of its innocence. The neon lights were a stark contrast to the darkness, a false promise of warmth and safety. They lured people in, only to spit them out, broken and defeated. The bars and nightclubs were havens for the lost, places where people went to forget their troubles if only for a few hours. But the escape was temporary, and the reality of the city's harshness always came crashing back. And illicit nightclubs. Corruption ran deep, a venomous current pulsing through the city's veins. The nightclubs were more than just places of entertainment, they were breeding grounds for crime and vice. Deals were made in the shadows, alliances formed and broken. The city's elite mingled with the underworld, their fates intertwined in a dance of deceit and betrayal. The air was thick with the scent of desperation, a reminder that in this city, everyone had a price. The neon signs flickered, casting long shadows that seemed to reach out and grab hold of the unwary. It was a world where trust was a rare commodity and betrayal was the norm. No one was safe. Not anymore. Not in this urban jungle. The streets were a battleground, a place where only the strong survived. The weak were preyed upon, their cries for help lost in the cacophony of the city's noise. The police were powerless, their efforts hampered by corruption and bureaucracy. The city's inhabitants had learned to fend for themselves, to trust no one. It was a place where every step could be your last, where danger lurked around every corner. The buildings loomed overhead, their windows like empty eyes, watching, waiting. The city was a predator, and its people were its prey. From the depths of this urban decay rose Pulse, a phantom cloaked in darkness. He was a symbol of hope for some, a harbinger of doom for others. His presence was felt more than seen. A shadow that moved through the city with purpose. He was a product of the city's darkness, a reflection of its soul. His mission was clear, to bring justice to a place where it was sorely lacking. He was a lone warrior, fighting a battle that seemed impossible to win, but he was relentless, driven by a need to make a difference, to be the light in the darkness. A teenager, barely a man, hidden behind a mask that concealed his identity and reflected the city's grim spirit. His youth was both a strength and a weakness. He had the energy and determination of someone who had not yet been broken by the world, but he also lacked the experience and wisdom that came with age. His mask was a symbol of his duality, a reminder that he was both a part of the city and apart from it. He moved through the streets with a grace that belied his age, his eyes always alert, always watching. He was a guardian, a protector but also a vigilante, willing to do whatever it took to achieve his goals. He was a whisper in the alleyways, a flicker in the static of a broken security camera. His movements were swift and silent, a ghost in the night. He knew the city like the back of his hand, every shortcut, every hiding place. He used the shadows to his advantage, blending in, becoming one with the darkness. The city's surveillance systems were no match for his skills. He moved through them with ease, leaving no trace of his presence. He was a master of evasion, always one step ahead of those who sought to stop him. His actions were calculated, precise, each one a step towards his ultimate goal. He was the city's electric heartbeat, a vigilante born of despair. His powers were both a gift and a curse, a source of strength and a reminder of his isolation. The electricity that coursed through his veins was a reflection of the city's own energy, chaotic and unpredictable. He could harness it, control it, use it to his advantage. But it also set him apart, made him different. He was a beacon of hope for some, a symbol of fear for others. His presence was a reminder that even in the darkest of places there was still a spark of light, a glimmer of hope. His playground was the urban sprawl, his enemies the corrupt officials and criminals who preyed on the weak. He knew their tactics, their weaknesses, and he used that knowledge to his advantage. He was a thorn in their side, a constant reminder that their actions had consequences. He moved through the city with purpose, his eyes always on the lookout for those who sought to do harm. He was a protector, a guardian, but also a hunter, always on the prowl. His enemies feared him, but they also respected him, knowing that he was a force to be reckoned with. He was their judge, jury, and executioner. His sense of justice was unwavering, his methods ruthless. He did what needed to be done, without hesitation, without remorse. He was a force of nature, unstoppable, unyielding. His actions were driven by a deep-seated need to make a difference, to bring about change. He was a symbol of hope for the city's downtrodden, a beacon of light in the darkness. But he was also a reminder that justice came at a price, and that sometimes the only way to achieve it was through force. And his weapon? The raw, untamed power of electricity. It was a part of him, a reflection of his own inner turmoil. He could control it, harness it, use it to his advantage, but it also set him apart, made him different. He was a beacon of hope for some, a symbol of fear for others. His presence was a reminder that even in the darkest of places there was still a spark of light, a glimmer of hope. He was the city's electric heartbeat, a vigilante born of despair, and he would stop at nothing to bring justice to the City of Shadows. Daniel wasn't born with a silver spoon in his mouth. From the very beginning, life was a series of uphill battles. His childhood was marked by the constant hum of the city, a place where dreams were often overshadowed by the harsh reality of survival. He was raised on the tough streets where every corner told a story of struggle and resilience. The urban jungle was his playground, and he quickly learned that to survive, he had to be tougher than the environment around him. Survival was a daily struggle. Each day presented new challenges, and Daniel faced them head-on. He saw people fighting to make ends meet, their faces etched with the lines of hardship. The city was a relentless beast, and it took everything to stay afloat. He knew the sting of injustice firsthand. He witnessed the unfairness that plagued his community, the systemic issues that kept people trapped in a cycle of poverty and despair. These experiences shaped him, fueling a fire within that refused to be extinguished. He'd seen the city chew up and spit out countless souls, leaving them hollow and forgotten. The weight of these observations bore heavily on him, but they also instilled a sense of purpose. He couldn't stand by and watch as the city claimed more victims. He'd always felt different. Amidst the chaos, there was something unique about him, like a live wire, crackling with unseen energy. He felt a potential within that was waiting to be unleashed. He often wondered if he was destined for something greater. Then came the incident. It changed everything. One fateful night, an event occurred that would alter the course of his life forever. It was as if the universe had conspired to reveal his true potential. The energy within him surged, and he felt a power he had never known before. It unlocked something within him, something powerful, something dangerous. This newfound ability was both a gift and a curse, and he knew he had to learn to control it. The realization was both exhilarating and terrifying as he grappled with the implications of his transformation. The day the energy within him surged to life was the day Daniel ceased to exist. In his place, a new identity was born. He embraced this change, understanding that his old life was gone forever. The city that had once been his adversary was now his responsibility. That was the day Pulse was born. With his new powers, he vowed to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. The spark that ignited within him was now a beacon of hope for the city. Pulse was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, determined to make a difference. It was a mugging, a seemingly ordinary crime in a city that never sleeps, the kind of event that happens in the shadows, unnoticed by the bustling world around it. But this one went horribly wrong. A desperate act of violence in a desperate part of town, where the line between survival and despair is razor thin. In this rundown neighborhood, the streets were dark and rain-soaked, reflecting the hopelessness that hung in the air. It was a place where dreams went to die, and fear was a constant companion. But for Daniel, this night was different. It was a turning point, a moment that would change his life forever. He was just a kid, barely old enough to understand the weight of the world, yet here he was, thrust into a situation that demanded courage beyond his years. He stood there, determined and resolute, his heart pounding in his chest. He was trying to protect his only friend Lisa, from a group of thugs who seemed to materialize from the shadows. Lisa, his confidant and the one person who understood him, was now in danger. The thugs were bigger, older, and their eyes glinted with malicious intent, a predatory gleam that sent shivers down his spine. Fear gripped him, but it quickly turned to anger. Anger at the injustice, at the helplessness he felt. This anger ignited something deep within him, something he didn't know existed. The air around him began to change, crackling with raw energy. It was as if the very atmosphere responded to his emotions, amplifying his rage into something tangible, something powerful. His eyes burned with intensity, and his fists clenched involuntarily. He felt a surge of electricity course through his body, a sensation both terrifying and exhilarating. Sparks flew in the dark alley, illuminating the grim scene with flashes of light. The energy built up, reaching a crescendo, and then it happened. A shockwave of electricity erupted from him, throwing the attackers back with a force that left them stunned and disoriented. Daniel watched in disbelief as the thugs, who moments ago seemed invincible, were now writhing on the ground. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. The power that had surged through him was unlike anything he had ever experienced. It was as if he had tapped into a hidden reservoir of strength, one that he never knew he possessed. The thugs, now scrambling to their feet, looked at him with a mix of fear and confusion. They had underestimated him, and now they were paying the price. Panic set in, and they fled, their bravado shattered by the unexpected turn of events. This was no ordinary mugging, it was a moment that defied explanation. Daniel looked at his hands, still crackling with residual energy. He realized that something within him had changed, something profound and irreversible. This was the first taste of his power. It both terrified and exhilarated him, leaving him with a sense of awe and a hint of dread about what the future might hold. The incident left him shaken. This power, this force within him was both exhilarating and terrifying. It was a part of him, yet it felt alien, uncontrollable. He practiced in secret, honing his abilities, learning to control the electric currents that flowed through him. He learned to channel the energy, to unleash it with precision. He pushed his limits, testing his control, the line between man and power blurring with every surge of electricity. He knew he couldn't ignore this power. He had a responsibility, he had a purpose. Section 5. Donning the mask. He couldn't stand idly by while his city crumbled. He wouldn't be another silent witness to its decay. He needed a disguise, a symbol to strike fear into the hearts of the corrupt. A mask, salvaged from a discarded mannequin, stared back at him, its vacant eyes reflecting his own grim determination. The mask became his symbol, a beacon of fear for the guilty and a glimmer of hope for the oppressed. He was no longer Daniel. He was Pulse, the electric vigilante, a force of nature in the concrete jungle. His first target, a crooked police captain, a man who had become a cog in the city's corrupt machinery. Pulse moved like a phantom, his footsteps silent on the rain-soaked pavement. Security cameras glitched and died as he passed, his presence disrupting their electronic gaze. He confronted the corrupt captain, the air crackling with energy. The captain's bravado crumbled as Pulse delivered his brand of justice, a jolt of electricity that left the man writhing and incapacitated. Justice was served, swift and merciless. The pulse of change had begun. Word of Pulse's exploits spread through the city's underbelly like wildfire. He was a rumor whispered in hushed tones, a myth that terrified and inspired in equal measure. Grainy security footage of his exploits, distorted by static and glitches, surfaced online. The city watched, captivated by the vigilante who dared to challenge the status quo. The corrupt officials, once untouchable, now trembled in their gilded cages. Pulse had become a symbol of resistance, a flickering flame of hope in the darkness. The city was a powder keg, and Pulse was the spark. His actions ignited a firestorm of debate. Was he a hero or a menace? A vigilante or a villain? Public opinion was sharply divided. Some condemned his methods, calling for his arrest. Others saw him as a necessary evil, a symbol of hope in a city drowning in despair. The authorities, their authority challenged, launched a full-scale manhunt for the electric vigilante. But Pulse was always one step ahead, a ghost in the machine. He knew he couldn't do it alone. The city needed more than just a vigilante, it needed a revolution. He needed allies in his fight against the encroaching darkness. Pulse became a beacon, drawing others to his cause. They were the forgotten, the downtrodden, the ones the city had cast aside. Together, they would form a network of resistance, a force for change in a city teetering on the brink of chaos. The fight had just begun. The pulse of rebellion, ignited by a single spark, was about to send shockwaves through the city's corrupt heart.